Another episode of Nasty Talk. We're going to be sitting down with Stacey, who is a young business professional all the way from Texas. She's going to be sharing with us her story about life, grief, perspective, and just giving yourself grace. We don't look like what it is that we've been through, and Stacey is one of them. Hear her story about triumph and victory, because behind the scenes, I'm just like, oh boy, like I ain't doing nothing with my life. When something gonna happen? I'm just be like crying, like, oh.
Girl, we all are crying and, doing what we got to do to get through. I mean, such is life. Like you said, everything always looks, glitz and glam on social media. I, for one, love a good selfie and a good post here and there to kind of, especially on a bad day too. I'm guilty of doing that. If I'm feeling off and I'm like, what do I really need right now? How about a little confidence booster? And I'll throw a picture on Instagram. And, for the most part, it's like a temporary band-aid, but we all need that little temporary satisfaction sometimes. So
I work from home, so I'm spoiled. So I don't have to put on any type of anything. And so when I'm feeling bummy, oh, it's a wrap. And I don't have to go anywhere. Nope. We're just gonna bask in this ugliness today. Let's talk a little bit. Nasty talk. The whole premise and stuff behind that is just getting the stories of people, particularly millennials, who, we all look like we have it going on. We always want to put our best foot forward, but there's always a backstory. What has been like for you in your life, one of the toughest moments where you've like, I don't know, maybe surprise yourself just at how strong you are?
Ooh, um, I'll probably definitely say, and I can talk about this forever, but definitely losing my mom. That was something that completely, as you can imagine, like rocked my universe. And I lost, just for backstory, I lost my mom 2 years ago. It was just recently 2 years, which I still can't believe. And just like never really ever having to deal with that type of grief or that level of loss. And they always say, like, even if somebody has been sick for a long time, like my mom was, like, there's still no way to prepare. And so, I was trying to go to therapy and I thought I was checking all these boxes to try to prepare, even though everyone was saying that you really can't. But I'm like, let me try to, mentally prepare myself for what seemed at the time like the inevitable, unfortunately. And when it happened, it was like therapy went out the window. Everything that you thought grief was, or that I thought grief was, or, what we see on TV, or what we even have seen when our parents dealt with loss. Like, I know watching my dad lose both his parents when I was younger, I didn't really see how he dealt with it because he's trying to be the man of the house and he wasn't sitting around crying and, freaking out and, or even drinking his feelings. And if he was, he didn't do it in front of us. So it's like, I had to really figure it out. And it was ugly. It was ugly. And like, even being in a relationship at the time and certain friendships that, there's at that point, it created sort of a separation with me and other people. Then it became like the people that get it and the people that don't, like the people that have lost a mom or lost a parent, and the conversations I would have with them were so different than people that have never gone through that. And, just a lot of people saying, oh, well, why don't you try to get up and go work out and that'll make you feel better, or go do this and go do that. And I'm like, no, and I didn't. I tried some of those things and it didn't work out. And I, to be fully transparent, I sort of drank myself through the beginning half of it and it was just a really bad time for me. And like, I didn't know how to deal with it. And I still don't, but I've taken a lot of different steps now. I'm 2 years in and I've been leaning more on a church. I finally found a church home here Shout out to the Potter's House, North Dallas.
Hey.
They have a grief support group that has really, really, really changed my whole life. Trying to use just different outlets like church and just, changing my relationship with drinking and changing, how I feel in those really, really awful moments. And it's a constant battle, and there's a lot of like starting over and starting over and starting over. And, there is just a lot of ugly that people really don't see. And, there's times where grief feels a lot like depression, or even it might even be depression. And so you really don't know sometimes. And it's hard, man, especially by yourself sometimes. Like my family is not here. I have my friends, but my family's not here to like pick me up off the ground when I need to be picked up and like scraped off the floor sometimes. And so that has just been something that I'm still dealing with, but I have to remember sometime to just stop and like praise myself for how far I have come in 2 years, and just that, it's hard, but I'll remind myself constantly, like, it don't look how it did, when it first happened. It looks a little bit different, and it looks a little bit more graceful. And the one thing that I always try to keep is that my mom was such a graceful person. So I just try to like at least give her that, like a little, if I'm missing her bad, like at least just be a little graceful.
Like you can grieve different things. And like, we always talk about grief as far as like losing a person, but you can like losing a job or like losing a house. Like no one really teaches. I don't even know if you can really teach someone how to grieve. It's a process that only that individual can go through. So I'm not a therapist. I've been to therapy. I'm in therapy and all that stuff. But it's one of those things where it's a constant.
Yeah.
Like you're literally taking it day by day type of thing.
Yeah.
And I've noticed like in, my situations of loss, like I wake up and I'm like, okay, it doesn't hurt that much today. And then other days I'm like, man, this is stupid. Like, why am I like this? And I'm just like, all right, but you have to be patient, be kind, being kind to yourself. Yeah. I admire your strength, and for you to even share that. And the fact that you even said that you went to drinking. How did that start?
Oh girl. I mean, I've always, there was like a time, like you said, like we can grieve plenty of different things. So, and I've noticed that just somewhere in, I guess downfalls of your life and periods of your life, I started noticing that was how I dealt with grief, whether it had been a job, like the job that brought me out here, I was really proud of. And then that ended up not working out. And it was extremely, extremely stressful for me to leave that company. And I noticed that was like a point in my time where I was drinking a lot. And then kind of getting through that and then getting back on my feet. And then this happened with my mom passing. And, I noticed that that's just a way that I was dealing with grief. And, at the time, talking to other people now about it, I don't feel bad about it, because I think a lot of people naturally go somewhere where it's just numbing and you don't have to really think about it. But it affected, like I said, like my relationship at the time, some friendships, and it was just hard for me to even kind of snap out of it or realize that it was getting to a point where it was like overboard. Now it's like, I even have friends that say like, I've watched you really transform and like, change a lot of your old habits and like, change, your relationship with alcohol and how you grieve and things like that. And, I'm not to say it's perfect now or that it's still ugly, but it's just different. And, I think we'll all constantly be grieving different things. And so it's just important for me to know now, like what tools to use. And if I have a bad day, like, it's like, don't beat yourself up about it. Just do something different. The next day after you have your guilt day, you do your horrible thing and then you have your guilt day and then you move on.
I was sick. I had COVID. And so just being in my room, in the bed, it just gives you space and opportunity to just think. And I'm like, oh Lord, I don't want to think about this right now. So I'm just like, I ain't doing nothing. What is happening? Like, why? Why am I here? Like, I'm too old for this. Like, what is happening? And then you just start going in a cycle and, just that downward spiral. And I did absolutely nothing. And I tried, I went outside to get some fresh air, walked around the block a couple times, and I'm just like, I still feel like crap.
Mm-hmm.
So that took that whole day in and out of listening to like my worship music, still trying to be thankful, like praying and crying, wiping my tears, and just sitting outside. And I was like, all right, tomorrow is gonna be better. And I'm telling myself, like, tomorrow's gonna be better. Well, I'm ugly and crying. And I was like, all right, you've had the entire day. We gotta do something.
Yeah.
And so I did. Like, I got myself together.
Those days are okay though, and sometimes but I live by myself right now, and sometimes I'll be like, "Whoa, thank God I live by myself," because you get to do that stuff, and like it's just you. You really don't have to explain it to nobody. My dog probably judges me sometimes, but like he can't talk, so it's okay.
Sometimes when life hits, people don't have that resilience to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they'll stay down. It's like it's easier to stay down than to fight to get back up.
Yeah, and another thing too that I just had a conversation with one of my friends about recently. She was listening to a podcast, and I forget who exactly the speaker was, but she was talking about losing her mother and how when you go through something like that, it's like a new low in your life where now like that is the totem pole for like low moments. So there can be few things lower than like losing your mom. So it kind of helps you go through some of the other things that you may go through. It's just like nothing is as bad as that. So it sounds bad or weird to say out loud, but like it's true. And even for me, like, after I lost my mom, and I'll talk about this because I just like talking about it, but shortly after that, I shaved all my hair off. And like, I know everybody probably thought I was going through like midlife, but it was something